Tote family. Here's a video to go along with the tutorial for feed bag totes. This really is such a fun craft because you get to recycle. It's pretty simple and there's lots of options to be creative. So we're going to make them to sell at Tack Swap this year. As much as we love seeing your creative flares on everything you guys do, try to keep the creativity down on the one you're generously donating because we need them uniform to sell. In this craft, there are a few different places where there's different options, so I'll be showing you all of them. First off, what supplies we need. We need a pair of scissors, either big or little scissors do work. You'll also need a cardboard box. If you don't have a cardboard box, there are a few other options. And if you're anything like my parents, you probably have tons of them because you got addicted to Amazon over quarantine. If you have an open space, you may want to tape that before we begin. Then you need either duck or gorilla tape. Use the normal, big size one, not the unnormal little ones. Duct tape has more fun patterns, but gorilla tape has kind of strings in it, so it doesn't fold on itself as easily. Make sure you have enough of one color to do the whole bag. And finally, you'll want a feed bag. Any feed bag from any animal will work. It does kind of have to be that plasticky fabric material, and not paper or burlap like a dog or cat feed might come in. You're going to want to rinse your feed bags out. I know this isn't the greatest video as I am trying to hold the phone and rinse at the same time, so I apologize for that. This can be done in a shower, in a sink, in a bathtub. If you're doing many, you might want to do it outside with a hose. If you have extra time, you may even wait until after step 1, where we cut it to rinse them out. Rinsing them is especially important if you're using a sweetened feed, like senior horse feed, because they're often covered in molasses and sticky. Let your bag completely dry before you move on. Now we will start cutting the bags. I have made a lot of these, so I might move slightly quick. If you need to pause or rewind the video, please do so. In this video, I will be making 2 bags to show you some of the different options. First, lay the bag out flat and flatten the sides. There's kind of a natural crease you can follow. Some bags is easier than others. After that, we will start cutting the bag. Decide how big you want it. These usually turn out to be about the size of the reusable shopping bags you will find at Wegmans or Tops, but you can make them bigger or smaller. Decide what you want to be the top and what you want to be the bottom. Since we will be folding stuff over and covering it with tape, leave 1 to 2 inches extra on the top and bottom. Here I wanted the chicken to be bottom, so I cut a little further down through the word poultry. And here I thought maybe the K would look cool, so I'm going to start to cut, kind of in line with the red arrow. You want your cuts to be as straight as possible. Save the scraps from both the top and bottom to set aside for later. Here's what it looks like now. Notice the extra room on both the top and the bottom. So that's step 1 for you. A few reminders are to make sure the bag is flat with the creases folded out. Choose where you want to be the top and bottom of your bag and leave 1 to 2 inches extra. And if you didn't already rinse your bag, this is a step you should do it after. Also be sure to save those scraps. Here's a second look at what the bags look like now. Since I am making 2 bags, there's a few parts of the video that I have sped up, so please pause as you need. This is when the box is going to come into play. You're also now going to have a few decisions to make. This involves flipping the bag inside out or not. Option 1 will look like this, and option 2 will look like this. In the first choice, you flip your bag inside out. In the second, you do not. If you don't have a box, don't worry. I'll explain that now too. So for option 1, you are going to flip your bag inside out. This gets noisy when everybody's doing it all at once. Then you're going to lay your bag flat out again. And then you're going to identify which side is the top and which side is the bottom. Now you're going to tape the 2 sides of the bottom together. I normally figure out the right length of tape by pulling the tape out and putting the not sticky side against the feed bag. Then when you find the right length, you're going to want to cut it. It has to be as long as the bottom, and it can be slightly longer too. I normally then put the feed bag on top of the tape, and then I make sure it's halfway over, and I fold up to get it to stick. You just do it however you feel comfortable. If there's a little bit hanging off the end, kind of making a little tail shape, that's okay. Now here's where the box comes into play. If you don't have a box, you can use another rectangular object, like a small garbage can. If you don't have anything big enough, you can use something to go in one corner at a time, like this little green container. If all else fails and you have a friend to help you, you can use their hand to fold the corners out. If you are using the box, make sure it's the right size, because this next step is kind of like wrapping a gift. For this, I will use the little green container. I first push it down into the corner I'm going to work on. You can kind of see it taking shape there. Then, I get my tape, I fold the corner up, I cut a piece, and I put it across. For this, you want to use 2 horizontal pieces. Remember that this step isn't going to be seen, so it's not the prettiest, that's okay. Since we're doing the bag inside out, any taping to this point will not be seen, so if you're running low on a color or pattern of tape, you can use a different one now. I'm going to push my container over and do the same thing on the other side. Here's what your bag will look like now. I have already taken my container out, so you'll notice that the bag is actually holding its own shape. Now we're going to pull our bags back out for the right side out. I see a cute little piggy emerging again. And there we go. You are now done with your box. Notice how you don't see any of the inside of the corner. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of a sticky spot at the bottom of your bag. You want to cover this up now. Especially if you set it down in the barn arena. All kinds of dirt will get collected there. To do that, I normally kind of push it up so it's somewhat flat and I can see it better. And then I'm going to cut a piece of tape to cover it. You want it to be as long as the bottom of your bag, not too much longer. Then you just want to push it on nice and flat. See? No gap now. And it looks a little bit more like a bag. I will now begin demonstrating the other method for the step on the other feed bag. So if you don't want to watch that, you can skip to the time on your screen. If not, stay and hang out. Watching this could be helpful, especially if you're going to make multiple bags and want to experiment around and see what you like. Now, keeping your bag right side out, we're going to do something very similar to what we just did. We're going to flatten the bag all the way out, and then we are going to tape the bottom together. Again, it is okay to have a bit extra at the end. Now we will put the box or rectangular object in the bag. If you're having trouble pushing it in the bag regularly, sometimes hitting it on the table or pulling the bag around the box rather than pushing the box into the bag might help. You want the box to be as long as the bag, and you want to be able to fold the corners up. So be sure to push it all the way to the bottom. Now we're going to push the corners up, similar to like wrapping a present. There are 2 ways to do it. First, you can use 2 pieces of tape and just push them on horizontally, one on top, one on bottom. So it looks like this. Then you fold the other corner up. And the other way to do it is making a triangle. Usually I use 3 pieces of tape for this. 2 are usually slightly longer and 1 is normally slightly shorter. You fold it up again, then you use 2 pieces of tape to make a triangle. Each of them are diagonal. And then you use a 3rd piece of tape to go under the triangle and cover up the empty gaps. This bag was slightly crooked, so it's not perfect. So I'll probably go back and use a 4th piece of tape to correct it. So here's what that side looks like. And then here's what the other side looks like again. Please make your bag have the corners the same on either side. And I'm going to go back and fix this bag so it does match. Just because it's easier to make 2 tape into a triangle, I'll probably make both sides into triangles. After you are done with this, you can pull your box out of the bag. Now you'll notice that the bag can hold its own shape. Now you'll notice that there's a little bit of a sticky spot at the bottom of the bag. Now we're going to cover that up so nothing we put in the bag gets stuck. I usually cut the piece of tape to be about as long as the bottom of the bag. It can be a little bit longer because you can bring it up the sides of the inside of the bag too. Now I apologize if I'm constricting your view here. I know I'm probably in the way of the camera. I usually do this step with the bag standing up straight on top of the table. I normally just take the piece of tape and use 2 hands and push it down and flatten it out. You want to make sure that none of the pieces of tape get stuck to each other or any of the things start to fold up irregularly because this can cause sticky spots too. If you didn't cut the piece of tape long enough, don't worry about it. You could just cut a second piece of tape to cover up the gap. Here's a look at the bag now. I like how the way I cut it, it looks like I have a pig and a turkey head sticking out of my bed. Now we'll move on to the handles of the bag. This is where I said you can get creative. I like to sometimes use a different color or pattern of tape for the handles. I like to incorporate the feed bag scraps into the handles itself in a few different ways. Or just decorate the handles with the extra feed bag scrap. You can do whatever you want. We've done it as a group a few times now, and I always love to see what creative ideas our club has. However, this isn't particularly why I told you to save those feed bag scraps. Hopefully you did save the scraps. If not, it's not a huge deal. For what we're doing now, the thinner pieces that you probably cut from the top of your bag are going to work better. If you're weird like me, you can even make a miniature bag from the ones from the bottom. These scraps are going to help us measure out the tape. Keep in mind that these normally turn out to be about the size of reusable shopping bags you'd buy at Wegmans. But of course you can make them longer or smaller. I know some of our friends even made more of a shoulder bag, so definitely play around and see what you like. You only need to use the scraps to make one mock handle. This is just to reference the length for when you make the actual handle out of tape, unless you do choose to use it to make the handle. Now we're going to start making the handles. Lay the mock handle out, and then measure your piece of tape to be as long of it. Each handle requires 2 pieces of tape. I have seen people do it with 3 pieces of tape, but that's unnecessary, so I usually use 2. You can either start with 4 pieces of tape and do both handles at once, or do 2 pieces of tape, make the handle, then do 2 pieces of tape. The handle I'm showing now is going to go with the bigger bag that I've been working on in this video, which is the poultry feed one. The handle probably looks bigger in this video than it does in real life, just because of the way framing and stuff works. You want to be careful during this step, because once tape attaches to the handle, it may not want to come off. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to start with just 2 pieces of tape. Lay both the pieces out flat next to each other so they're the same length. Then you're going to put half of one piece of the tape on half the other piece of the tape. So there's half gray and half white, or whatever your colors are on each side. Then you're going to fold the sticky sides over. You want to try to do this as flat as possible, and make sure there's no air bubbles or piece of tape kind of pinched up. So I normally do this on a hard table and kind of push down too. This makes a nice size and pretty thick handle. Now I will make the second handle for the poultry feed bag. Usually I do cut 4 pieces and then make both handles. Since the first few times I made these feed bags, we had yet to come up with the idea of a mock handle. You may notice that I just kind of make the pieces of tape long enough to match each other in the pre-existing handle. Once you have enough practice, you can do this too. When you're attaching the pieces of tape together, do not let the pieces of tape touch each other until you're positive that you have it the way you want it, because once Gorilla Tape sticks to itself, it does not come apart. You want the handles to be an equal length. If you're making multiple bags, put the handles in the bag so you don't mix them up. Now I'm working on the handles for the smaller of the 2 feed bags I've been showing you, the one with the pig on it. Because I usually cut multiple pieces at once, I normally stick them to the side of the table. However, if you get it stuck to your pants, it doesn't come off easily either. We didn't think of the mock handle idea until after I had already made a few, so sometimes I'll just cut 4 pieces of tape to be the same length as each other. With practice, you can do the same. If you are going to add to your handles, I would do this now rather than after we attach it to the bag. If your pieces of tape aren't even, I would wait until after you have the whole handle made to then trim it down. Now we will attach the handles. There are a few options. One option is to make the border, then attach the handles. Here's what that looks like. The stronger option is to attach the handles, then make the border around it. For this bag, we're going to first attach the border. You want to start by cutting tape. You need at least 2 pieces. 2 pieces have to be as long as the long end, and you can make them longer so you can encompass the sides in them too. If not, you can make 4 pieces, 2 long and 2 short. You can always go back and add after the border is completely on. To attach the border, start with one of your long ends. I usually put the tape on the table I'm working on and push the bag down. You want about half of the tape to be on the bag at this moment. This is why you want to leave extra room at the top. Now you want the tape to cover the complete edge of the side you're working on. To do this, you're going to fold it inwards. That way, both sides of the side you're working on are covered. The folding is similar to how we folded the 2 sides of the bottom together, except for this time we're only folding one piece around one side. If your piece is long enough to do more than just the long side, curve it and start working on your corner. Then I flip it over so I can work on the other long side. Now I'm going to lay the tape out and attach it to the other side of the bag, just like we just did. The perimeter needs to go over the short sides too. The complete perimeter should be even, meaning that the tape comes down to the same point on the entire outside of the bag. Check to see that your edges tape is even too, because this is often where you'll have 2 pieces of tape joining. If they're not, you can use additional pieces of tape to make them even. I am going to fix the one side of this bag with an additional shorter piece of tape. Now you want to attach the handles. Attach them how they naturally attach, without any extra twists. This can be confusing and I'm really bad at it, so if there's a twist there, it's not the end of the world. To figure out what's natural, just hold it onto one side and pull it to the other and see how it kind of falls. Then we're going to tape it. You can either tape it to the outside or the inside of the bag. The piece of tape you're using to attach it to the bag does not have to be long by any means. You want to tape it down so the edge of the tape matches the edge of the perimeter, and then just kind of fold the sides over. Do this to both sides of the handle, and take note of where the handle is attached so you can attach it to the same place on the other side of the bag. You can also attach the handles to the inside of the bag. Again, you would follow where the handle kind of naturally goes to, and be sure to line up the handle with the handle on the other side so the handles are the same length. Because I am going to attach the handles to the inside of the bag, I normally flip the bag so the side with the handle is already on top, so I just kind of have to push the tape down rather than push the handle onto the tape. Since you're attaching it to the inside of the bag, you don't have to really worry about it being even, because you're most likely not going to be able to see it, unless you are using a darker color tape or your feed bag is on the thinner side. Now, as you can see, both of the handles should be attached to the bag. But to make it stronger, we're going to add extra pieces of tape. These pieces of tape don't have to be much longer than the handle is wide. If you attach the handle to the inside of the bag, you're going to attach the tape to the handle on the outside of the bag. If you attach the handle to the outside of the bag, you're going to attach the extra piece of tape to the inside of the bag. It needs to touch both the bag and the handle. Here's what that will look like. If you did attach the tape to the outside, because of the way we had to fold it over, there might be some sticky spots. So cover those up with tape, even if you have to just rip a weird shape of tape off. If you don't want to see the other way to attach the handles, you can skip to the time on your screen. However, you may want to watch the next way too, because it's usually a bit stronger. Now for the other side of the bag. This is what I personally prefer, but you can do whatever you want. Again, you're going to kind of lay the handles out how they naturally fall. Then instead of the border, you're going to tape the handles down in the inside. Do this all 4 times before moving on, so all the handles are at least partially attached. You want to make sure that you're taping the handle down on the same spot on either side of the bag so your handles are an even length and distance apart from each end. Then you're going to cut some tape out. I usually do this in 2 pieces, but you can also do it in 4 pieces. You want it to be at least as long as the bag laid out. Then you're going to attach the piece of tape to one side of the bag. I again usually do this by laying the tape out and then pushing the bag on top of it. Be careful not to get tape stuck to itself. Try to have only half the tape covered by the bag at this point. Make sure it's even so you have a straight line of white tape all the way through. Then before you start folding it over, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We are going to cut right next to either side of the handle. You want to be careful not to actually cut the bag down. This way, the spots where the handle is, the bag's attaching to the handle, not the feed bag. You then can fold the tape down normally. Do this again on the other side of the bag too. Cut extra pieces to cover the rest of the perimeter and the sides as needed. Here's what it should look like now. This isn't the most perfect bag because there was a lot of spaces I had to go back and fix to make the tape even. Unlike in the other method, I do not think you need to add an extra piece of tape for support because your handles are already attached to both the inside and outside of the bag. So it should hold up well. And done. Here's what both bags look like now. Just to recap, we first rinse our bags, then we cut them down to size, then we form the shape of them using a box and a piece of tape along the bottom. Then we make the handle using 2 pieces of tape, and we attach the handle and the border to finish the bags off. Well, that's it. You guys did it. Give yourselves a round of applause. I hope you had a lot of fun making this bag. This is definitely a fun and easy craft to do, and I'm so excited I got to do it because it's been one I've wanted to do for a really long time. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and can't wait to see you all at Tack Swap. Bye!